All right, so first off, I say all praise to Yahweh, in the name of his son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short, but also known as the Prophets of Doom. These are where I have learned this truth, and where I am still learning this truth, and also Shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel, Lord willing, I am of the number. All right, so this video we're going to go into back into Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. And we're going to speak a little bit about the MotB, or the mark of the beast. Okay, we're going to read this scripture, and then we're going to do some real world, or not real, the scriptures have to do with the real world, of course. But what I'm saying is we're going to read some scriptures. I mean, something from the search engine. All right. So there is going to be a lot of reading, I think, from the computer part of it, but it'll be straight to the point. So here we go with Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. The previous video we went over, we touched on who Esau-Edom is. All right, we gave a few examples of some scriptures. Now there are traits and characteristics that tell who Esau-Edom is, which means that there are more verses in here than what are brought out on one video. Okay, that point to who this man is. Okay, for the most part, the men of the Lord try to get straight to the point. All right, and there are many videos that go out. Multiple videos on this subject come from one channel. Okay, so even though some scriptures may not be touched on at one point, all right, they'll be touched on again in another. All right, my elders, apostles, all right, all the brothers that teach this whole Bible is given to the ones that come to these videos plainly. All right, all the understanding of these scriptures, although I am still learning. All right, what I have learned, I know. All right, that does not mean that there aren't things that I'm still learning. Okay, but for 100% of the scriptures, all right, the truth of them, all right, lies with the men of the Lord, all right, GMS, and those with the same doctrine. All right, I'm not going to say similar. I'm going to say the same doctrine. All right, as there is only one doctrine. Okay. So let's get to Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. It reads, "And he," which we went over the he and went over the causeth. All right. This video we're going to go over the what he is going to causeth all to receive. All right, this mark. But let me read this verse first. All right. It says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads." Now, verse 17 also goes into that mark, which it says, "And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." All right, so you're not going to be able to participate in the system, in the society that the ones that rule it have built up. Okay, they have gathered everyone into a trap. Okay, as it says here in Deuteronomy, speaking to you Israelites, Deuteronomy 28 and 64, or it might be, hold on, it might be Deuteronomy 28 and 48. Let me see. Yeah, Deuteronomy 28 and 48, it says, well, let me start at 47. It says, "Because thou servest not the Lord thy power with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things, therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he hath destroyed thee." So not only did we have an actual physical yoke of iron upon us, all right, but we have a spiritual one for the most part on the nation of Israel. Okay, but the key there is that we go to this man in want of all things, which means that we are in his system. But there's going to come a time, all right, when this thing is presented where you're going to have to make a decision. Really, you should be making that decision now. Okay, you should be making that decision now. And really, even further than that, all right, the Lord has already predestined those whom are going to receive this salvation on this side. Not to say that any Israelite is not going to be in the kingdom, okay, but uh, as far as this time when that great destruction, along with along with the salvation comes, all right, the devastation is meant for more Israelites than is not. All right, so let's speak about this mark really quickly here. All right, or maybe not too quickly. I don't know. It's going to take as long as the Lord has it take. So let's go to the scripture again in the Blue Letter Bible. All right, this is an app what Elder Apostle Tahar made popular. It is a tool. It does not mean that sometimes this can't go off. All right, the more you study, all right, which we all should be dependent on Yahweh Baal Shem Yahweh Shai, all right, and his and being able to study through the spirit and power of Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, all right. Also these Bibles, all right, they can go off. Okay, the spirit is what drives you toward the truth, all right, despite what is written in these books. Okay, if something is off or if something is valid, all right, the spirit will lead you to find these things out. All right, so Revelation 13 and 16 in the blue letter. All right, Revelation 13 and 16, and he causeth all. Now, what this app allows you to do is go into these words. That's why I bought this up. So we're going to go into the interlinear, which you can have a book. All right, I have a concordance out there that does the same thing that this site here does. All right, but it's quicker. So we're going to go into the interlinear, or the meaning of this word in the Greek. We're reading it in English, but it being a part of the New Testament, these words show up in Greek, so it's good to go to that Greek word and see what the word is. All right, so here's the word for mark. Strong's G 5480, charagma. Charagma. All right, charagma. Now let's go in here and look at this charagma. In the context of Revelation 13 and verse 16, it says a stamp, an imprinted mark. It says of the mark stamped on the forehead or the right hand as a badge of the followers of the ones who are against the Messiah. Okay, definition 2, it says the mark branded upon horses because it acts as a brand. Okay, when you have a branding iron and you brand cattle, all right, that is in essence your name and your mark to show whose property that is. That's the same thing in the same way this mark of the beast is going to act. Okay, it says a thing carved, sculpture, or graven work, because they do have to form these micro C-hips, which is what this mark is. It is the micro C-hip, an RFID micro C-hip. All right, a couple of examples that we give of this technology is Walletmore, WALLETMOR, and another is Neuralink, or Elon Musk's brain technology. All right, so go look up those examples. Pay more attention to the technology. You can take note of the names and the people surrounding that thing, all right, but take note of the technology so that you know what it is. Okay, they can always change the names of the people and the manufacturers of this thing, or the companies that push this thing. Okay, Strong's definition of charagma, it says a scratch or etching, i.e. stamp, as a badge of servitude. All right, and what did we just read there in Deuteronomy 28 and 48? Is that we go to this man in need of all things and want in need of all things, which means we have been, or we are in captivity. All right, we are in servitude right now. All right, so he has not handed out his badge yet. That's what this mark of the beast is. But that doesn't mean that you can play with the Lord and take as much time as you want to. All right, you're not supposed to put off or wait to conform to the ways of the Lord. All right, that's not how this works. Okay, so really you should be praying that your decision be made now. Okay, now. All right, so we already stated what this thing is. Now, this is what we did here. Actually, let me go back there for a second. I want to touch on that word poeo, or causeth. How is he going to get people to receive a microchip within them? All right, how does that happen? Well, that word causeth goes into the word poieo in Greek. Okay, what that means, well, I'm not going to go there right now, but at the bottom of that definition, you can look this up. All right, at the bottom of that definition, it says to make ready and so at the same time to institute. To make ready and so at the same time to institute. So right now, this is making me want to ask a question to this chat. So hold on a second. And it's not really chat. All right, this is just Google AI, the most basic of AI, I think. Not sure, I can't remember. Not too up on technology. So let me see. I was gonna ask what is that thing called, man? I can't think of the name of it. Not ordo ab ko, although let me see. Explain ordo. Let's see. There's another word for this, but let me see what this says when I asked it to explain ordo ab ko. It says ordo ab cato, which is on the back of your dollar bills. All right. It says ordo ab ko is a Latin motto meaning order out of chaos, symbolizing the creation of structure, wisdom, and clarity from confusion, conflict, or the unknown. Famously used in Freemasonry to represent spiritual or philosophical growth, the formation of the organization's rites, and the emergence of light from darkness. It signifies a transformative process where individuals or systems harness disorder to build something meaningful, applicable, and spiritual, philosophical, and organizational context. Now, it kind of said it there. All right, they do harness disorder. All right, in order for them to bring upon the world the solution that they want to present, they need to cause the right problems in order to get that thing looking uh, uh, very nice to people. Okay, for lack of, I know there's a better word for that, but uh, anyway, there's a word. There's something else that I'm looking for this, and I cannot. I can't think of it. Is it? Let me ask what this is really quick. Let's see. Explain as above, so below. Let me see. All right, that's not really what I'm looking for either, and I cannot think of the name of this. That's all right though. What they do is they set up the problems, it garners a certain reaction, and then they present the solution that they wanted to put onto the stage uh, in the first place. And I can't believe this is escaping my mind, but it is right now. But that's all right though. The point is being made with those more simple words. Okay, so let's go back here to what I asked Google. Okay, so first I asked, what are some most recent steps made by governments towards a digital future, especially regarding tech, hardware, and software? So it spit out some answers. All right, it gave. I'm not gonna read them all, but it started out saying in early 2026, governments are transitioning from pilot programs to full-scale integration of emerging technologies into mission-critical workflows. I had titled a video not too long ago about 2026 being a pivotal year. Now let's get the definition again for pivotal. Let's just ask if something, or if a year is described as being pivotal, what does that mean? So let's see. Because when a year is described as being pivotal, it means it was exceptionally important. It means it was an exceptionally important year because events that occurred within it had a significant and lasting impact on the future. And this is how they described 2026 to be when it comes to Neuralink and things like this. All right, the technology that is going to merge man with tech. Okay, so now let me go back here for a minute now. All right, so a few of the categories it gave was software and AI advancements. It talks about agentic AI integrations or agencies that are shifting from simple automation to agentic workflows, where autonomous AI agents handle complex services such as lingual citizen engagement and multi-stage compliance and checks. So it went through a bunch of things like we can see, okay, things that we can actually see going on. All right, let me go through a few more categories really quick. Modular software modernization, standardized AI procurement, government-wide open source. Another category said hardware and infrastructure initiatives. It says high security data centers, all right, which they are building in a lot of communities now that aren't very good for the environment, but they won't tell you that, all right? They'll try to slide it by you, all right? Underseas and satellite connectivity, semiconductor sovereignty, all right? It says zero trust hardware verification, where agencies are mandate verifying every device and user before granting system access, effectively moving toward a device agnostic security model. All right, hardware restrictions. It says as of January 2026, the FCC has issued a new national security determinations to restrict the use of certain foreign produced drones or UAS and their critical components in US networks. All right, so I went through a lot of these things down here. This is where I want to start right here, though. All right, the next question I asked it, I was more like a warm up to see what information it would give. All right, so here's a question where the reading is going to start. I asked, what about the movement to merging humans with tech? Has there been an uptick in this area? All right, so now it says in 2026. Hold on for a second. I want to talk more toward the camera, so hold on a minute. All right, so it says in 2026, the movement to merge humans with technology has transitioned from speculative science to a regulated industrial sector, marked by a significant uptick in clinical trials and manufacturing scaling. Brain computer interfaces, or BCIs, and medical hardware. It says the most visible uptick is in the industrialization of brain implants, mass production of neural implants. It says as of early 2026, Neuralink is shifting from niche research to high volume production of BCI devices. This includes moving toward a fully automated surgical procedure to streamline implantation. It It says, while Neuralink uses a fully invasive approach, other companies like Synchron and the Beijing brain, which, man, I didn't bring my notebook. That's something I haven't heard of. Beijing brain. Okay. So again, while Neuralink uses a fully invasive approach, other companies like Synchron and the Beijing brain project are advancing semi-invasive or endovascular, which means via blood vessels, methods in 2025. These projects completed multiple human implantations to restore motor and speech functions for patients with spinal cord injuries, or ALS. It says new trials scheduled for 2026 include Blind Sight, which we talked about that. That's a arm of Neuralink. It's called Neuralink Blind Sight. There's also something called Neuralink uh, telekinesis, I think, or telepathy. Okay. So yeah, you gotta look these things up, man. All right, this is indeed the mark of the beast. Okay. Um. Anyway, new trials scheduled for 2026 include blind sight technology, which aims to restore vision by stimulating the visual cortex directly by bypassing damaged eyes or optic nerves. As far as government and military symbiosis, it says government interest has shifted from simple tools to human machine symbiosis, where tech acts use a colleague rather than just an instrument. Now that seeing that word symbiosis made me think of the thing that did not come to mind earlier. So the water Yahweh ball Shemi I was shy. What was it called? Antithesis. Antithesis. Oh man, where did it go? Let me see. Okay, it was thesis and antithesis and synthesis. So hold on. Let me type that in. Thesis. Hegelian dialect. That's what I was looking for. All right, the thesis and antithesis and synthesis method is most famously known as the Hegelian dialect, a philosophical process where an idea or a thesis is challenged by its opposite, the antithesis, leading to a new, more complete idea, the synthesis, that resolves the conflict through Hegel himself, though Hegel himself never used those specific terms, instead preferring concrete, abstract, and absolute, with the terms popularized later by thinkers alike Heinrich Moritz, Calibius, and applied broadly in logic and writing. All right, so the Hegelian dialect is what I was thinking of. Let's in simple terms, what is the The Hegelian dialect is a philosophical method describing how ideas in history evolve through a three-stage process. All right, a thesis, an initial idea, generates its opposite, an antithesis, leading to conflict, which is resolved into a higher, richer synthesis, incorporating elements of both and becoming the new thesis for further development. It's a dynamic way to understand progress and change, where contradiction drives development towards greater truth or consciousness, ultimately aiming for the absolute idea. All right, this is what they do. Okay, poieo. Anyway, so back here. All right, where were we? Okay, so DARPA's human machine collaboration. It says active programs in 2026, such as Air Combat Evolution or ACE, are testing collaborative dogfighting where humans and AI work together, focusing on measuring and increasing human trust in autonomous combat partners. Uh, they're talking about human and machine interaction with each other. All right, making each other better, but still, it's not really going into. Okay, here's generative optogenetics. DARPA is hosting workshops in January 2026 for its generative optogenetics program, exploring advanced ways to use light to control or monitor biological cells. All right. Well, let me get to this next question because still is kind of going around things and we need to get straight to the point, right? So, and sometimes you got to talk to this. All right, this thing goes by what the programmers tell it. All right, so if you ask an outright question about the point, it'll talk around it or try to defend against it instead of being uh, um, in the middle. I can't even think of the word for that. Non-biased. All right, but this thing is biased sometimes. All right, the answers that it gives. So sometimes you got to ask questions in a roundabout way. Okay. So I put if and only if sea hipping the world was a mission, because most people play this like it's all fantasy. Although we have all these things in the world pointing to we're heading right towards prophecy. All right, people still treat this as though it's a fantasy or a conspiracy theory. Okay, so I had to ask it that question like that. If and only if sea hipping the world was a mission that a hypothetical secret society was on, is the world headed in the right path for this? And what goings on point to the inevitable accomplishment of this mission? In other words, if the plan by a secret society is to sea hip the world, are we on that path? And what is happening in the world to show that we are on that path? All right. So it says in a hypothetical scenario where sea hipping the world were a primary mission, several 2026 trends suggest that global infrastructure is aligning toward that outcome, driven by a shift from voluntary convenience to essential infrastructure. Remember, and he causeth all. All right. Also, remember that 17, Revelation 13 and 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Again, what did it just say there? Driven by a shift from voluntary convenience to essential infrastructure. All right. Now let me check this time really quickly here. All right, where we're going to start at in the next video, Lord willing, is normalization of subdermal hardware. All right, but we're going to cut the video right there. All right, given that people's attention spans don't go that far anymore in this world, I'm going to cut this video right here. Or maybe you don't have time. Okay, maybe you can split this up and come back to listen to this part and come back to the next part in the future. But Lord willing, we'll come right back, starting off right where we left off here. All right, so I hope that came through as sincere and edifying so far. All right, and with that, all praise to Yahweh, in the name of His Son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. All right, double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short, but also known as the prophets of doom. These are where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth, and also shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I am of that number, and Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video. Shalom.